So just by way of introduction, my name's Steve Simpson. I'm at the University of Bristol. I study marine biology and global change. Very lucky to work in the natural history world, the green Hollywood that we call Bristol. And then also with Andy Wakefield, who some of you know, run a Masters in Science Communication for a Better Planet, which is a complement to the amazing Masters at UE as well. But I'm really here just to ask some questions to our special guest to finish today's session, Mitch Turnbull, who I'm delighted to introduce as a colleague from the University of Bristol. Mitch is going to present for around 20 minutes on immersive technology, so really thinking about how we can advance some of the methods of communication. And so there's going to be some really interesting, provocative discussions that will follow from that, no doubt. I've got a few questions that we've harvested from a few people that I'm going to finish the session with, and there will be an opportunity then to carry on the conversation afterwards. So I'm going to hand over to Mitch, who hopefully is happy to introduce yourself, Mitch, and then we'll have your presentation, then a few questions. Thank you.
Great. Hello, everybody, and thank you, Savita, and everybody at Communicate Conference for inviting me here to give the keynote to a bunch of communicators. How intimidating is that? I'm very intimidated. Anyway, I hope I can inspire you with what I'm going to talk about. But very briefly, my background, I've been making natural history content for over 20 years for traditional platforms like broadcasters and digital platforms. That's, yes, considering that to be traditional. And in 2015, I came across immersive technology and was completely wowed by it. I mean, I came into making natural history films because I want to connect people to the natural world. And when I came across immersive technology, I just thought, wow, this is another level of connection. And so I've been doing that since 2015. I've done a variety of content, virtual reality, mixed reality, augmented reality, projection mapping, etc., all based within natural history and nature. And in August, I was incredibly lucky to spot an advert for a job at the University of Bristol, and I'm now a senior research associate in Immersive Natural History Experiences, which I'm super excited about, and I'm with the university until early 2027, investigating the superpowers of immersive technology and how they can enhance engagement with the natural world across a variety of investigations within that sort of general banner. So I hope I get invited back in 2027 and I can tell you all about what I found. Okay, so with the fact that we've got 30 minutes, I'm going to take you for a really, really fast jog through this stuff because it's huge. So, okay, so why engage with this devilish technology, right? I mean, you know, isn't digital technology part of the problem that we're losing people engaging with nature? And what even is immersive technology? So I hope I can kind of enlighten you on that subject and perhaps encourage you that actually it's quite worth looking at immersive technology to do this job of engaging people with the natural world. So, I mean, what do we mean by immersive, firstly? I'm going to just read this out because it's quite a sort of defined statement. But there's no one definition, of course, that fits all. But simply put, immersive experiences are about creating sense-saturated story worlds, environments that disconnect you from reality, but fully surround you and let you actively participate in a believable narrative atmosphere. These story-living experiences have the capacity to blur the line between reality and imagination, using visual, sight, audio, hearing, olfactory, smell, and haptic touch. They have the capacity to generate a sense of presence, transporting audiences to virtual worlds that might be real or unreal, or worlds generated within one's imagination. Powerful stuff, hey? Here we go. Here's a little list of titles for you. And I'm going to run through these, each in turn, just to try and explain what each one is, because I mean, some of you in the room might know what this stuff is, but I'm going to start from the beginning here. So forgive me if you know this stuff already, but I think it would be useful to just go through each of these technologies so we have a clear definition of what each one is. So starting with augmented reality, it's most often delivered on a mobile device. It's as simple as an app. It's very accessible 2 billion people have mobile devices. It's a very easy technology to engage with. It's considered to be immersive because it can augment content into the real world. So AR stands for augmented reality. What that really means is putting digital content into the real world by using the screen on your phone or a mobile device. It's probably the least of the immersive in the lists, but you can add a sense of immersion through some spatial audio that goes with the piece. So here's an example from WWF's Forests AR app that I recorded the other day. So simply put, you've got this is a screen recording, so you've got the content activated on your screen. You can hear there's a little bit of audio that goes with it. Inaccurate audio, by the way. I don't know if this is the audio for a snub-nosed monkey's habitat, but there you've got a little snub-nosed monkey. You activate it to do something, it climbs up the tree. So you're encouraging engagement. You've got these little icons that you can press on, which then deliver a little bit of information and extra content. So this is a typical augmented reality experience, and quite a good one. It's very effective and very, very simple and easy. So that's augmented reality. Mixed reality often gets confused with augmented reality. The big difference is how it's delivered. So it's delivered using specific head devices. So in this case, this is a Microsoft HoloLens device. And then here we have a Magic Leap device that I made a piece of content for Magic Leap and also BBC Studios, where we created a couple of stories. Lovely Stephen Fry narrating, made a couple of stories about a Brazilian wandering spider predating on a cricket and some leafcutter ants doing their thing. And it allows people to explore the stories, interact with it, engage with the narrative, and actually it was a gamified experience, so we were building gamified elements within the sort of story structure narrative. And you couldn't really progress through the story without triggering a bit of game and, making something happen, basically. But it's a brilliant way of bringing nature into your home, right? I mean, it's totally personalizing that experience. Okay. Next along, virtual reality, possibly the term that most people have heard of before. Virtual reality is delivered using these kind of headsets. It's more immersive than augmented reality. It's more immersive than mixed reality. You've got a device wrapped around your head, so your peripheral vision is gone. You're completely immersed in that space. This headset is called the Quest 3, Meta Quest 3. You'll see it's got lenses on the front. To add the confusion, basically what that allows you to do is to create mixed reality, augmented reality experiences within the virtual reality headset. So you can switch between a purely enclosed virtual experience or turn it into a mixed reality device. You have controllers, so you can interact with content either in the virtual reality experience or, again, if it's a mixed reality experience, you'll be seeing your own hands, you'll be in your own space, and so you can use your hands as the way to control content. Virtual reality, one of the benefits of virtual reality is that you can create content using CGI, okay, so computer-generated images, or you can use a 360 camera, so you can have live-action lens-based content in there. One of the benefits of virtual reality. This is a Conservation International project where they made 4 VR experiences, but then they could easily port it into their website. So suddenly it becomes a lot more accessible. Okay, a lot of people don't have headsets, right? But now they can access this 360 content via a website as well. It's very easy to access. You use your mouse or your touchpad on your computer. This is me just recording, me interacting with this content on my screen. And then you can explore the world in 360. Again, it's not as immersive, but it means that people can still explore those places in 360. And it's a beautiful story. People are taken into the Colombian rainforest here, and experience proper rainforest for real. I'll let it play until you see the first few shots. So there we are. We're in a beautiful, I think it's a fig tree, beautiful. And then you go down into the forest canopy. through the forest canopy. So projection mapping. This is kind of what it says on the tin. It's using projectors, or even LED walls is another sort of area I'm talking about, because what we're doing is we're taking people into larger spaces. So they can be interactive. So this is the wonderful Team Lab in Tokyo and their piece, where the projections are interactive. So it gives the visitors experience of agency, so they feel like they're sort of involved in the content. And then you can have LED walls, very high fidelity LED walls, content delivered in these sort of black box spaces and with sound design and sometimes scent as well. So you get a really deep sense of immersion. This is Marshmallow Laser Feast's beautiful new piece around Wales. Marshmallow Laser Feasts are a creative artist group of about 20 people in the company, and they make beautiful immersive experiences, and very often focusing on nature. Look them up and see their work. It's absolutely outstanding. I'm going to talk about them a lot again in this talk. And then, of course, you have typical visitor experiences like this. This is BBC Earth's Experience that was presented in London a couple of years ago and is now in Melbourne, so it moves around. But projection mapping pieces that large audiences can experience, and experience in a social environment as well. I think probably as communicators, you will understand that if you experience something together in a group, it's got a much more powerful resonance in terms of that experience, right? It's a shared experience. 3D audio soundscape, you might say this is a tool that we use within immersive technology, but it actually can be used as an immersive thing in itself. So there's a company called Darkfield who put you into a container, shipping container, completely black, barely any sort of props. You've got amazing headphones, and they then deliver this amazing audio, 3D audio experience. So I'm saying to you all in this room, imagine what you could do with, say, a beautiful 3D audio soundscape of the Borneo rainforest, put in some scent there, maybe put a bit of wind and air as well, and let people's imaginations run wild. Imagine that they're in that forest space. And of course, we know that once you stimulate imagination, that creates a sort of much more memorable experience, because again, it's the visitors and the people who have experienced it have really owned that experience. Okay, it creates very memorable experiences. Spatial computing. This is the new kid on the block and mostly applies to the Apple Vision Pro device, which is this thing here. Confusingly, again, it can be a virtual reality device by a sort of a turn of a dial, and it can also, well, it is in essence a mixed reality headset, which you'll see in a second. So, quick clip. This is a sample of content that was created for the BBC for Prehistoric Planet, which was then ported and turned into a augmented reality experience or a mixed reality experience, and creating content that's also then flat, but then 3D as well. The real bonus of this device is that the visuals are awesome. I mean, it's very, very high fidelity visuals, very, very believable, very, very impressive. And the audio is delivered on through little speakers on the bar in the headset, and it's really effective. Okay, and then things like haptics, object-based audio, and scent are things that can be added to all of these different types of immersive technologies to really sort of enhance the experience in some way. What is it then about all of these technologies that really, tick the boxes? It smashes that fourth wall, right? It really takes people into the content. And I'd like to sort of say now that to try and convince you all, I'd like to take you all for a little wander, and we'll all go and experience some immersive technology in a room next door, because actually the best way to really understand immersive technology is to experience it. And, there's a long list of what are their superpowers, but I would say that probably the most powerful is the capacity to reveal the unseen, and be that through shrinking us to microscopic levels, or taking us to places that we could never go to, and elevating a sense of awe through that capacity. Closely followed by immersive technology's capacity to take us into a story. So story living an experience through its capacity to elevate a sense of presence and the power of agency. And then the true emotive sucker punch. By story living and elevating awe, immersive experiences have the capacity to heighten an emotional connection and transform perspectives. Boom, we now have generated potential capacity to change behaviors, right? We're really grabbing people by their heart and soul and taking them into these experiences and hopefully engaging them with nature in a different way, but in a really, really powerful way. Okay, so this is what I plan to investigate for the next 2 years at the University of Bristol. But now, let me just, here's a list of immersive technologies superpowers, okay? I'm going to run through them very briefly. Again, this is all recorded, so if people want to kind of review this after this event, please go ahead, or take photographs, go ahead. But reveals the unseen. So we're transforming perspectives, right? We're taking people to places that they could never normally go, that microscopic level potentially. We're taking people into alternative realities. So you could have like Marshmallow Laser Feast. It's a creative take on nature. It can manipulate time and space. And it increases accessibility by taking people to places that they could possibly not visit, all right? Whether they, for whatever reason that might be. And it bridges physical and digital worlds, which, again, you have the capacity to really enhance storytelling. What that might look like, for example, here we have Marshmallow Laser Feast's beautiful LiDAR imagery. Sorry, there's the lights, I don't know if it's a bit bright, but the LiDAR, this is a LiDAR capture of a kapok tree in Colombia. And then they visualize through digital technology the respiration process of the tree. And it's really stunning, it's really beautiful, and it's presented in a sort of black box space, again with sort of sound design, sometimes with scent as well. And it's really, it's unpeeling the layers of the tree so you can actually see inside what's going on. Obviously it's an artistic representation of that, but they work on an accurate basis. So story living, not storytelling. It enables agency and choice. It enhances presence and connection, encourages collaboration and social interaction, stimulates curiosity and exploration, allows personalization. It gives people the chance to have their own story, right? And it combines storytelling with play. And I think this has been talked about in Communicate already about how do we incorporate gaming within this sort of realm of connecting people to nature. It's an incredibly powerful tool. So what that might look like is Conservation International again's piece called My African Keeper, made by Vision 3 and Passion Planet, where this is on HTC Vive. It's a gamified version of you being an elephant keeper at the Rutiti Elephant Sanctuary in Kenya. And you really get a feeling of a sense that you're feeding the elephant, you've taken some blood from it, you've put some water on its ears, cooling it down, and there's this little baby elephant recovering from your work that you've done. And then, for me, one of the most powerful aspects of immersive technology is that it has this incredible emotional sucker punch and potential to connect you on a really deep emotional and transcendental way, actually. So sound design can be incredibly powerful. Can really, we know when we listen to an amazing piece of music how we feel, right? It really changes our emotions. Deliver that in 3D through headsets. It's incredibly powerful. Multi-sensory experiences, people who are touching things, smelling things. These are really, really powerful ways to connect people. And you can actually build anticipation prior to an experience. So people, before they go into a headset or before they experience one of these location-based experiences, they're already beginning to get excited about what they're about to experience. And of course, these are memorable experiences. And so when you have a memorable experience, you take that away with you. You'll remember it in 6 months, right? And you'll carry that experience with you for time, which hopefully will then help you understand or change your behavior in future as well, which I think we're all after as well, which is that permanent behavior change, right? Great, and so again, I'm going to just play, this is Marshmallow Laser Feast. They did a piece at Grisdale Forest, I think this film kind of sums up the capacity of what they achieved with what they were doing with their experience at Grisdale.
Virtual reality as a tool and as a medium was something Anne wanted to explore, because we often interested in new cinematic tools, and it was quite a different and unique experience to create for audiences that would normally go to the forest. So it was really encouraging the walkers and the cyclists to abandon their normal devices.
The tactile element is hugely important for this project. In fact, it's half of it, really. The feeling of the forest under your feet and the additional sounds of the forest, the smell, and so the tactile nature of the headsets and the way that the subpack works, it gives this physical element to the virtual world, and that was important to us as well. To have a project that's multi-sensory, it just allows people to escape into the VR.
When you're going into the headset, you've already been led on a walk, you've arrived at the site, and so in a sense you, as an animal, have had your mindset affected by your walk. And then when you go into the work, you are completely in the ideal location to be then trying to experience that environment from the eyes of the different species. When the experience of the VR is finished and you lift the headset off, it's almost like a cut back to the real world, and that sort of cinematic cut is almost like the final part of the work.
Our favourite thing really is seeing people who don't know anything about virtual reality, who just stumble upon the project, come out of the bushes and have their first virtual reality experience in a wood.
The fact that it was very small scale and it was very abstract was brilliant, because it kind of shifted your perspective of what you anticipated. And obviously having the backpack on as well, it gave me quite a shock, because when you become a dragonfly, you've got this sort of brrrr noise going around, and that's obviously their wings.
I felt like I wanted to go exploring, so I wonder if the next step of something like this is that you can control it, and then you can fly where you want to and explore the forest.
So I think that by levering these superpowers, conservation organisations can inspire a sense of wonder, urgency and personal responsibility in their audiences and the people they want to connect with, and ultimately driving greater awareness, advocacy and action for environmental protection. This image is taken from a 360 film I made for the United Nations called Growing a World Wonder. It was part of a larger campaign, but the campaign raised $4 billion. And I know the film wasn't the reason why, but it was part of that bigger campaign. And we got Xi Jinping to actually watch this experience as well, which was a bit of a coup. So they're tools. They are tools to use within a suite of communication tools as well. But my vote is to harness this devilish and quite simply magical technology, as far as I'm concerned, and do something positive with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What a roller coaster journey through the past, the present, and the future. That was amazing. I noticed, whether it was deliberate or accidental, that you didn't once mention AI or generative AI. Was that deliberate?
So very often people talk to me about what I'm doing and they say, oh, you're working in immersive technology. Oh, AI, terrible stuff. It's got nothing to do with AI. AI is a tool. I mean, we might use AI to create imagery within an immersive experience, but it's not, it's got nothing to do with AI. It's these immersive technologies. It's basically like content that's out there, but just presented in a different way.
Yeah, so you mentioned, and I guess AI can sometimes be perceived as a bit of a gimmick, right? But you mentioned personalization, gaming, choice, things like that. How do you see that those play a part in the tools that you're developing?
Yeah, I mean, I think once you personalize something, somebody gets the opportunity to decide the future of the narrative that they're not, it's this story living concept. So they're in the story and they're choosing which direction the story goes. They're owning that story. It's an incredibly powerful thing to do, and it leaves really strong memories. So you're really elevating the message that you've got within that content with the people that you're trying to engage with. It's a very, very powerful tool. And so gaming, we all know how popular that is, right?
Yeah, no, interesting. So what you are doing is giving choice to be able to control the narrative. so hoping to spark memorable experiences. I think you hinted at it a little bit with the dark field installation. One of the questions I did have at the beginning of this is could this be the death of imagination? But you actually kind of countered that a little bit. Do you want to say any more on that?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think actually what this is doing is the opposite of that. I think it's sparking imaginations because it has the capacity to take people to places that they don't normally or can't go to. Imagine an immersive experience, a 360 experience of traveling along a coral reef. Okay, how many in the room? Has anybody been on a coral reef in this room? Oh, maybe it was the wrong audience to ask. But let's put it this way: what we're talking, like fractions of a percentage of the population have been to a coral reef, right? So take somebody to a coral reef, get them to encounter, hundreds of species. Your imagination is going to go, it's going to explode, right? And then, of course, dark field. I mean, if you're just using an audio piece, I mean, all you're left with is your imagination, what that might look like, which is incredibly powerful because your brain is the one that's making the story, right? And so, that stays with you for a very long time. You own that story. Yeah,
which is an interesting example. So you're not simply augmenting people's sensory experience. You're actually denying some of the sensory experience by going into a darkened space. So playing on sensory deprivation to heighten senses in another way to invoke that imagination. Is that something that through the different approaches you play with in terms of how much you drive each sense?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you've got a 360 space to deal with. Suddenly, literally, as I say, we're smashing that fourth wall. You're allowing somebody to step right into that screen, and suddenly they're in it, right? So, you can play with that as a filmmaker. You can put sound behind them to sort of encourage them to turn around, and then they engage with content behind them, just like we would in the real world, right? We'd be in tune with perhaps something that might be behind us, and it would trigger us to sort of turn around. So you're playing with sound in terms of building the narrative. I think, yes, obviously, encouraging people's imaginations, taking the visual away is a really, really good tool. Yeah, powerful. Yeah. Powerful stuff.
Yeah, amazing. Some of the initial examples you showed were inside people's houses. So whether it was using their desktop or using a virtual reality headset or their mobile phone. I did actually look up because we were talking about how many phones there are. Apparently it's 7 billion smartphones in the world. 70% of the world's population have access to a smartphone, apparently. Yeah. So that really does start to put this technology at the coral reef into the potentially almost everybody's lived experience in some way. And then you also had the installations, so say the BBC Earth installation, the Marshmallow Laser Feast installations. I know there will be people in the room here that work in the real world, work in forests, work in zoos, work in aquariums and so on. Have you got examples of where, as well as having those natural experiences, these technologies are starting to enhance the visitor experience and the connection that they get?
Yeah. So should we look at the dolphin one? Is that what you're thinking?
Well, you were telling me about gorillas.
Oh yeah, gorillas.
So I don't know whether...
So there is a company called Emotion that have made these VR experiences that they're now licensing and taking them to zoos. So a zoo will license this content. And they will, I'll quickly show a clip. I don't know, where is that clip? Oh, here we go. So this experience can be put into a zoo. It's 360 lens-based capture. You're in a headset. You're in a seat that has sort of movement around it. Taking people to Rwanda to encounter a mountain gorilla family. Pretty powerful stuff. So yeah, these location-based experiences, you can access this stuff, in these sort of venues. And and there was the BBC Earth experience as well. So,
So that would be your experience while visiting Chester Zoo, to
Yeah.
actually also visit the natural habitat of the gorillas.
Indeed.
And witness being in that environment.
Indeed, exactly. Yeah. How to elevate that experience of seeing the actual animal and then going and visiting it in its home through the power of virtual reality.
Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of us that would love to go and see where Albert first came from.
Absolutely.
We're really short on time, but I've just got one final question, which you hinted at it, your main kind of research drive. You talked about storytelling and elevating awe. Do you want to tell us the sorts of things that you're excited to explore with that?
Absolutely. So, I mean, as I've just talked about, I think there's the one real superpower that this technology has is to connect with us on a really deep emotional level. And I think, all of us in the room would be completely agree in that, if you go into nature, for the most part, you're going to have an awesome experience, right? You're going to have an awe-inspiring experience of some sort. And what does that mean when you have immersive technology? What does that look like? How do we work with that? With these amazing pieces of technology, how can we enhance that? How can we amplify that sense of awe in these experiences? Because I think that's what we want to be doing as communicators, right? And if somebody can't go into nature and experience the awe of nature, can we do that within a piece of immersive technology, a piece of immersive content? I think it's one of the most powerful things. So I will be working with the psychologists at the University of Bristol, and we'll be sort of digging into how powerful this stuff is. And we've got these amazing new facilities at the university, which allows us to capture huge amounts of biodata in terms of audience response to content. So I'm going to have a lot of fun and games playing with that. So if anybody wants to, sign up, we'll be doing that research in the next couple of years. So very exciting.
Yeah, thank you for that. Just in finishing, I was given a tour of it, and so they've got a cinema where you can actually get wired up. They've got thermal imaging cameras. They can measure your heart rate, measure your breathing. And one of the early discoveries you mentioned about those shared experiences and the way that plants memories, that they were finding that when a family sit and watch content together, their heart rates start to fall into beat with each other. So when you come away with that family experience, it's actually quite a physiologically driven experience underpinning it. And ways of being able to tap into that to bring families and their memories together is really powerful.
Absolutely, and I think I mentioned this sort of concept of transcendental experiences. These are behavioural change, pro-environmental, pro-social behaviour changing experiences, right? That we can potentially create with this stuff.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm sure that there are lots of questions that you would love to ask Mitch. I'm going to ask Savita to come up onto the stage just to close the session. Savita's probably going to tell us where we can all go to carry on the conversation, and is probably going to say a few thank yous, but probably isn't going to say one thank you that's a very important thank you, which is thank you to Savita for hosting us all. I think